It was raining hard. I was late for my meeting, stuck in traffic, angry, restless. Then I saw her, standing alone, soaked in the rain. No umbrella, no rush, just peace in her eyes. I didn't know it yet, but that moment would change my life forever. If you believe love can find you in the most unexpected places, keep watching. This isn't just a love story. It's a story of strength, identity, and the beauty of being seen. Subscribe, sit back, and let me take you there. Before all this happened, before that one rainy day flipped my world upside down, I was the man people said had everything. My name was in magazines, my face sometimes on business covers, and my bank account could probably feed a small country. But none of that ever filled me. I was always working, always building, chasing numbers, meetings, deals, as if they could give me something real. I lived in a penthouse high above the city, but most nights I stared at the ceiling wondering what the point of it all really was. Friends? I had many, sure. People who laughed at my jokes, toasted my wins. But connection? That was rare. And love? I didn't believe in it. Not in the way movies or books talk about it. I thought that kind of love was for dreamers or desperate people. I told myself I was fine alone, that what I had was enough. It was easy to believe when you stay busy, when your calendar doesn't let you think too much. But even in the noise, there were quiet moments when I felt something missing. I just didn't know what it was until I saw her. That day, in the rain, that day started like any other. A Monday, I think. The sky was already gray when I woke up, and by the time I got into the car, the rain had started to fall hard, sharp, and fast, like it was angry. Traffic was crawling, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing, and my assistant was already calling about a delayed investor call. I remember sighing, rubbing my temples, and staring out the window like I often did, half bored, half irritated, and then I saw her. She was standing on the corner of a narrow street, no umbrella, soaked from head to toe, but she didn't seem to care. Her hair clung to her face, her clothes heavy with water, but her eyes weren't panicked like everyone else rushing for cover. She wasn't trying to run, she just stood there, still, calm, like she belonged to the rain. There was something about her that stopped everything inside me. I couldn't hear the noise of the city anymore, just the steady rhythm of rain hitting the windshield. Her skin, dark and gleaming wet, looked like it was kissed by the storm. She wasn't performing for anyone. She wasn't asking to be noticed. That's probably why I couldn't look away. In that one moment, something cracked open in me. I didn't know her name. I didn't know her story. But I knew, with a strange kind of certainty, that I had just witnessed something rare, a kind of beauty that wasn't trying to be beautiful, a kind of strength that didn't need to raise its voice. I didn't believe in love at first sight. Not until that exact second. Not until her. Standing still in a world that never stops moving, just existing, unapologetically. I should have rolled down the window. I should have said something, but I didn't. I just sat there, staring like some fool who forgot how to speak. And she saw me too. Not for long, just a glance. But it was enough. Her eyes met mine through the windshield, and for a second I felt like the world paused. Not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way. It was quieter than that. Quieter, but heavier. She didn't smile. She didn't frown either. She just looked at me, held my gaze with this calm, unreadable expression, like she was used to people looking, but not really seeing her. That hit me harder than I expected. I've been in rooms with world leaders, celebrities, people who demand attention, but none of them ever made silence feel that loud. We stared at each other for what couldn't have been more than 5 seconds. Then, the car moved forward. The driver was talking about something. I wasn't listening. I turned back, tried to catch another glimpse of her, but she was already gone, swallowed by the city. The strangest part? I didn't even know why I cared. I didn't know her name, her story, where she was going, or why she was standing in the rain. But I knew this. Something in me shifted during that quiet moment. I felt it deep. A kind of curiosity, yes, but more than that. A pull, like the universe had handed me a single puzzle piece to a picture I hadn't realized was missing. And then came the silence in my chest, that ache when you know something slipped through your fingers. I didn't say a word to anyone the rest of the day. But her face, her eyes, they followed me into my dreams. I told myself it was nothing, just a moment, just a random woman in the rain. The city is full of stories that pass you by every day, faces you see once and never again. But this one stayed. Her image kept returning at the oddest times, in the middle of meetings late at night when the silence got too loud, even in my dreams. I'd close my eyes and there she was again, standing still, skin glowing with rainwater, eyes holding something I still couldn't name. So I went back. The next morning, I told my driver to take the same route. Same hour, same corner. She wasn't there. Maybe she never would be again. But I returned the next day, and the day after that, I didn't tell anyone why. I just said I needed fresh air, needed to get out more, which wasn't a complete lie. It became a strange routine. Me, the billionaire with too many meetings to count, rearranging my schedule for a glimpse of someone whose name I didn't even know. I started asking around, carefully. I didn't want to scare her off if she ever showed up again. I asked a street vendor on the corner, a woman selling flowers nearby. Most shrugged. One man said, "Oh, the quiet one? Dark skin, always walking like she's in no rush?" That was her. That had to be her. For someone I'd only seen once, she had taken up space in my mind, like she'd always been there. I couldn't explain it, even to myself. All I knew was that I had to see her again. Not to impress her, not to chase some fantasy, but to understand why my soul had gone still the moment I saw her. I was starting to think I'd imagined her. Maybe my mind had built a whole story out of a passing moment. Loneliness does that sometimes. But about a week later, just when I was beginning to let go, there she was. Same street, same time. But this time, she wasn't standing still. She was crouched down beside a stray dog, completely soaked again, holding out what looked like a piece of bread wrapped in a napkin. No camera, no one watching, just her, doing something kind for no reason. I didn't tell the driver to stop. I didn't think, I just opened the door and stepped out. The rain didn't matter. My shoes were ruined in seconds, but I didn't care. She looked up when she heard me approach, and for a second, her face tensed like she was preparing for some kind of judgment. I can't explain it, but that tiny shift in her eyes broke my heart a little. I just said, "Hey," as casually as I could, like we'd met before. She nodded slowly, didn't speak. I crouched beside her, looking at the dog, not her. "You do this often?" I asked. She looked at me then. "Only when it rains," she said quietly, like it was a secret. We didn't talk much that day. Just a few words, maybe a smile. But it was enough. I felt something different in that moment, something real. She wasn't trying to charm me. She didn't know who I was, and she didn't care. And for once, I wasn't a billionaire. I was just a man, kneeling in the rain beside a girl with a soft voice and a quiet soul, wondering what it was about her that made the whole world seem to slow down. The third time we met, the rain had stopped. The clouds were still thick, the ground wet, but the sky held a strange calmness. I found her sitting on the edge of a low wall under a tree, legs crossed, eyes closed. Like the world around her didn't exist. I almost didn't want to disturb her, but she opened her eyes before I could say a word, like she sensed I was there. She didn't smile, but she didn't turn away either. I sat down beside her, quiet at first, just listening to the city breathe around us. I told her my name. She didn't react, didn't seem impressed. It was almost refreshing. Then she told me hers. Her voice was soft but steady, the kind of voice that didn't ask for attention but still held it effortlessly. She told me she worked at a small bookstore, said she loved rainy days because people slowed down, and that's when the city felt more human. We talked about small things: books, music, the smell of rain. Then, she said something that stuck with me. People always want to fix the way I look, lighten this, straighten that, but I stopped apologizing for my skin a long time ago. There was no anger in her tone, just peace, a kind of quiet power that made you pay attention. I realized then that she wasn't just beautiful, she was whole, comfortable in her own being, and I, for all my wealth, had never known what that truly felt like. Sitting beside her, hearing her speak with such honesty, I felt more grounded than I had in years. I didn't want to impress her, I just wanted to be around her light, even if it only showed when the clouds rolled in. We started meeting more often after that. Not planned, not formal, just naturally. Sometimes it was under that same tree, sometimes by accident in a cafe near her bookstore. Other times, we'd walk without speaking much, letting the city talk around us. I found myself craving those silences, those moments when nothing needed to be said, because her presence alone made the world feel less heavy. She never asked about my money, never pried into my life. She didn't treat me like a story or a mystery to solve. With her, I didn't feel like the billionaire. I felt human, bare, seen, enough. She laughed rarely, but when she did, it was soft and real. The kind of laugh that didn't care who was listening. I started seeing beauty in things I used to ignore. The way her fingers traced the rim of her teacup when she was thinking. The way she would pause before answering a question. Like she measured her words with care. And the way she looked at the sky when it started to rain, not with annoyance, but with welcome. Like it reminded her she was alive. There wasn't a single moment when I realized I was falling. It happened slowly, like dusk turning to night. You don't notice it at first, but then the stars are out, and it's undeniable. I wasn't in love with her because she stood in the rain that day. I was in love with how she lived, quietly, honestly, without trying to impress anyone. With her, I didn't need to be more. I just needed to be real. And for a man who built a life on appearance and power, that kind of love felt like freedom. Not loud, not fast, but true, and absolutely unforgettable. It didn't take long before people started talking. The first time we were seen together in public, I noticed the stares, some subtle, some not. Whispers followed, the kind that questioned things without saying them outright. Why her? What's he doing with someone like that? Not because she wasn't beautiful, she was, but because her beauty didn't fit the mold the world expects beside a man like me. Friends gave me the usual coded language. She's different. Are you sure this won't damage your image? Even my own team hinted that this relationship could be bad optics. I hated every word of it, but she never flinched. Never let their judgments shape her. She had already fought that fight long before I came into her life. One night I asked her if it bothered her. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "I've spent too many years learning how to love myself. I'm not giving that up now." That shook me. Her strength wasn't loud or angry. It was calm, rooted, immovable. The world questioned her worth. She never did. And that, more than anything, made me want to protect her. Not because she needed it, but because love does that. Quietly, fiercely, without apology. Then, one day she started pulling away. No big argument, no drama, just a soft distancing I could feel before I could explain. She stopped returning my calls right away. Her replies got shorter. Her silences grew longer. At first, I thought she needed space. But when I finally asked, she looked at me, steady but with sadness in her eyes, and said, "I don't want to be your cause." I didn't understand. She went on, "I don't want to be someone you're proud to love despite the world's opinions. I want to be loved because of who I am, not as a lesson or rebellion." It hit me hard. She wasn't doubting me. She was protecting her own dignity. Her whole life, people tried to make her feel small. She wasn't about to let love do the same, even unintentionally. That moment shattered something in me, in the best way. For the first time, I realized love wasn't about showing up in grand gestures. It was about truly seeing the other person, not as a statement, not as a contradiction, just as themselves. And she deserved that, all of it, nothing less. So I knew. I had to show her that my love wasn't decoration. It was truth. I didn't chase her with roses or fancy speeches. That wasn't her language. Instead, I showed up consistently, quietly. I went to her bookstore, bought the book she'd mentioned in passing, even if I'd never read a page. I supported the local shelter she volunteered at, not to impress her, but because I wanted to be part of the world she cared about. One rainy afternoon, I waited outside her shop. No umbrella, just standing there, soaked, like she had been the first time I saw her. When she walked out and saw me, she didn't say a word at first, just looked at me with those searching eyes. "I'm not here to rescue you," I said. "I'm just here, with you, as you are." "As I am," she exhaled, slow, deep, the kind of breath you take when you've been holding something in too long. And then she stepped closer. No big speech, no dramatic kiss, just a small nod, like she was letting me in again, little by little. That moment meant more than any yes I've ever heard in boardrooms. Because it wasn't about winning her back, it was about being worthy of staying. And that kind of love, it changes you forever. From then on, everything felt different. Not louder, not faster, just truer. We didn't need to explain ourselves to anyone anymore. We'd both stopped caring about the noise outside. What mattered was the quiet we found in each other, the peace. She brought a kind of stillness into my life that I didn't even know I needed. Not the stillness of boredom, but of belonging, of coming home. We'd walk hand in hand through parts of the city no one expected to see me in. She'd introduce me to street food I'd never tried, stories I'd never heard, music I didn't know I loved. I showed her my world too, slowly. Not with luxury, but with openness, vulnerability. We shared pieces of ourselves that we'd kept hidden from everyone else. And somehow, nothing about her ever felt out of place in my life. She was the missing piece. Some people still looked, still whispered, but their voices didn't hold power anymore. Because when you finally found someone who sees you and lets you see them, everything else fades. Loving her didn't just fill a space in me, it healed something, quietly, completely. And in that healing, I found the kind of peace no amount of money had ever bought me. Loving her changed me, not just the way I saw her, but the way I saw the world and myself. I used to live in control. Every detail of my life calculated, managed, scheduled. But she taught me the beauty of surrender, of softness, that there's strength in silence, grace in stillness, and power in just being who you are, even when the world wants you to be something else. She never tried to fix me, never asked me to change, but just by being herself, unapologetically, honestly, she held up a mirror I couldn't look away from. She made me question what I thought success was. It wasn't money. It wasn't recognition. It was being seen and still being loved. She gave me that. And she reminded me of things I'd forgotten, like the smell of rain on pavement, the quiet joy of sharing a meal, the power of presence. No performance, no pressure, just presence. I once believed love at first sight was a myth, but now I know it's not about instant romance. It's about something waking up inside you, a knowing, a shift, a truth. And from that first rainy day to now, she's been my reminder. Some souls don't need to be loud to change your life. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it stands quietly in the rain. If this story moved you, share it. Let someone know they are seen, they are beautiful, just as they are. Subscribe for more human stories that touch the soul. Until next time, stay kind.